I have made a ton of progress on my SRPG project over the past 2 months, so much so that the satisfaction of seeing it come together more and more has created a momentum that I'm seeking to continue. Before I talk about some of the things I've done, I just want to say that a small gameplay demo is coming together within the next few weeks. Probably just a single map as a way to see what aspects are going well and which require improvement. When it's ready, I'll release a video announcing it. I don't like asking for subscriptions, but in this case I'll make an exception as more eyes on the demo would mean so much to me. So please, subscribe if you haven't so you can take part sooner. At that time, I'll also be creating an itch.io page, a Twitter/X account, and a Discord server for the project, and I hope to see you join me there. If there are any other platforms you think would be particularly helpful or welcoming to a project like this, please let me know. Out of the platforms I listed, I would like to especially note the Discord server, as a more rapid back and forth with players will allow me to better iterate the project, shaped by feedback. And who knows, perhaps you'll be able to use your Machiavellian machinations to influence how it progresses. Plus I have some tempting perks in mind, but I'll discuss those more in the next video. Now on to the progress. The thing about progress in a project like this is that a lot of it can feel rather invisible. You've probably heard of various rules about how effort into a project can be uneven. Perhaps you've heard of the Pareto principle or other rules like the 90-10 rule or other similar things. Getting a project to the point of my first video is quite a bit of effort, sure, but taking that and expanding it can be much more, even if not immediately obvious at a glance. For example, improvements made to my tools, rewriting certain things to be more efficient, and the like. I won't put you to sleep with all that, instead let's take a look at some of the more visible updates. First, I'll show the supply system. In my first video, I showed this inventory system and trade system that took advantage of the higher resolution and mouse control to expedite the process of managing your inventory. Now a supply window takes up one of those slots in circumstances where it's relevant, so managing inventory is even quicker than before. Instead of having to tediously open trades between units in pairs at a time, you can have up to 7 units plus the supply window open at once. Next, let's talk RNG. Now I've been wanting to make an SRPG for a long time. This project wasn't my first go at it. The others didn't get too far. They reached the point of being technically playable, but nowhere near as far along as this project. But one thought I had originally was, what if there was a way to take RNG out of the equation? I had some wacky ideas, like each unit having a stamina gauge, that's value was determined by their speed and skill stats, and represented their evasive ability. It operated like a health pool that damage was dealt to first before it hits your actual hit points. It would then refill each turn based on your skill stat, so evasive characters had to skirmish more, sometimes having to back off to replenish, while your actual high defense tanks had more staying power. I think it was an interesting idea, but it also felt a little difficult to manage. SRPGs have enough numbers being thrown around, and now you're being asked to manage the stamina meters for your units and the enemies, values that would refill partially each turn, all that. I think there was something there, but I've since gone back to something more traditional. But the desire to reduce RNG dependence is still there, so I've designed the engine in such a way to allow options. For example, 1RN and 2RN, systems that veterans of the Fire Emblem series would probably recognize, where 1RN is a single roll for hit rates, while 2RN involves averaging 2 rolls, which can take away some of the big swings that 1RN can have. But I have a third option here too. I've labeled it experimental, and it's a more advanced mode, which I'd probably make it unlockable. The idea is that attacks always hit, however, damage is reduced based on the hit rate, so if a unit attacked with a 100% hit rate, they hit for their normal damage, but if they had a 70% hit rate, they hit for 70% of their damage. It's like instead of using RNG, you're using damage values you would expect if you were averaging over time, so it's like a Spreadsheet Warrior special. Have you seen a system like this in an SRPG before? Please let me know if you have. The next thing to note is the camp system. They give you a nice objective to claim on the battlefield, as you can summon your units from there, use the supply if you're adjacent to it, and those who retreat to your reserve units heal a chunk of their hit points every turn you leave them in there, so rotating forces can be a good idea. The number of units you can have in play depends on the map, so you can't just summon your whole army at once. I think when it comes to designing maps, camps sort of operate as checkpoints, but they're checkpoints you do have to defend or enemies will try to claim them back. I've set up a new system for capturing enemies. My original plan was to have it so if you flanked the enemy and then defeated them in combat that you initiated, they were captured. I decided with how the Link talent system worked, the design space for positioning your units around an enemy to get a benefit was already taken up. So instead, if an enemy is at 20% or less HP, your unit may use the spare command to offer them surrender, capturing them. It sort of adds a feel of being a little like Pokemon. Capturing enemies has various benefits like granting experience points and karma, more on that in a moment. Overall, I've tried to improve the UI, first by making the panels a little better looking, along with making things that are buttons much more obvious. I've also finished up the stats page, which I think looks pretty good, and gives you a ton of information, but in a manner I believe is well organized. My concept was to have things in order of least important to most important from left to right. The right side showing the unit's link talents, spells, and vital combat statistics, so if you need to know what an enemy is about at a glance, a look at the right side will give you what you need. Additionally, I have the battle options here when you click a spot that's not occupied by a unit or camp. It gives you information about how many units you're allowed to have in play, your objectives, and this display of how much karma you receive for beating the map faster, giving the incentive to go for a lower turn count if you can. This karma can be used after battle for a few different things. It can be used to recruit captured enemies to your side. I spoke of this in my first video. The idea is that if you recruit them, then you can get a random template applied to them, giving them a portrait, name, growths, and the like. That part is programmed, but I haven't made any portraits for those units yet, so the templates aren't ready. Other things you may do in this menu is purchase equipment from the inventories of captured units, and you can revive units who were defeated in battle. I'm still getting the exact balance for the numbers figured out, but my current thinking is that I don't want it to be a throwaway amount that makes losing units in battle feel like it's without consequence, but it shouldn't be so much as to be overly punishing. It should be something that forgives some mistakes, but still pushes the player to try their best. Well, those are some of the main things to note for updates so far. I'm really looking forward to sharing the gameplay demo, and I hope you're curious enough to give it a try when it's ready. I'm eager to receive feedback on it. For now, have a great one, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks for watching.